Today we're going to do take apart a hind leg of a beef. This happens to be a grass-fed beef, and there's a few parts already missing that I needed for a customer last week. And but anyway, you will get the idea when we take it apart. I will take it apart and explain all the cuts we get out of a hindquarter. So we get started now and take a knife. And first what we do is we cut that down here, right, tight to the tenderloin. This hindquarter has been aged for 3 weeks, so that's going to be very good eating and very tender meat. I'll put that over here, lay them all out. And now if we want T-bone steaks, we will make a cut here. And then that would be T-bone steaks, but for this one, we don't need T-bone steaks, so next we're going to take the tenderloin out. Use a little bit of longer knife. Make always sure they're razor sharp. That makes work so much easier. First we take a little bit the gristle off, so you see the muscle underneath and where we have to cut. So now we have the tenderloin here, and the next step is to cut it out. The tenderloin starts up here, so we make a cut here and run the knife down along the hip bone and then along the spinal cord here, just like this. And just let the knife do the work. You just lead the knife. If it's sharp, the knife finds its own way along the bone. And you just need to hold on to the knife. Like this. And then we cut down along the bone that way, all smooth along the hip bone. Then we see a seam coming up here, and that seam, that's the tenderloin. We have to cut here a bit, and now we cut that muscle through here. Go in with the knife, and now just scrape it down along the bones. And here we are already in the loin section. And all along here is what we call feather bones. And so we just run the knife along the feather bones, making sure not to cut into the muscle behind, because that's going to be our New York steak or loin steak. Depends what area you're from. Meat cuts tend sometimes to have different names in different areas. And there we have our tenderloin. You might be wondering why this is blue here. This is in Canada, this is a law. When a beef is over 30 months old, it has to be painted blue. That means we can't make bone-in steaks with it. Okay, now we have the tenderloin out, so our next part we're going to take off is the loin. It's the hip muscle going all the way down here, and in here it disappears slightly back in here. So we're going to find with the knife where the bone ends, and then cut a straight cut all the way around. A good way to also go by is the last vertebra before the tail starts. Cut in the middle with the saw. But you also can cut here by the last joint, and you will get the same. So here is the bone, I found it. Now I have to find my way around. By some is it higher up, by some it's lower down. So you just have to find your way around. Here, I got it. And cut all the way around. in a straight line. And then through the joint. Just cut into the joint and you see it's already coming loose. Hold on to it. Cut around that little butt end of the bone. Lift it up and there it is. So the next we're going to do is the loin. Take the loin out, which is that one here, but there's a big bone, the so-called egg bone. Goes all the way down here. So the way I do it is I take the bone out right away, not on the table, right here while it's hanging, which makes the boning a little bit easier when you do it hanging rather than on the table, because here gravity will help you. Again, we have to take some fat off first, so we see where we cut. Here we are. The bone goes along here, up here, and around here. So what I do with the knife, I make an incision here to cut around the bone, like this, all the way to the end till you feel the bone. And turn it around and run it along on this side to loosen up the tailbone, just like that. And then we take, there's a little slab of meat in here, we take that one out. Again, just with the knife tip, you run along the bone and loosen it up. And there it is, that goes in the ground beef. And then we run the knife along here. Just again, just the tip, just always with the tip find the bone. And then through the joint here, there's a hip joint in here, through here, and to the other side. Here the bone goes up and around and comes down through here. And there it is, cut a thick tenon through. And here just gently run it along. If you, just with the tip of the knife, if you go in with the knife all the way, you cut behind here, you cut into a prime steak cut. And that's not something you want. Alright, so now we cut around here through the joint. And then again run the knife tip very gently down here along the bone, around the bone, into the bone. It's a bit a curvy bone, that one. I'm going to show it to you afterwards. Just all around this corner here. Cut to the bone. And there it is. Well, that's the hip bone. So it needs to be cleaned up a bit. There's still quite a bit of meat on it. It all goes into the ground beef trim. So we put that over here. Clean it up later. Clean your knives, always make sure your knife handle is clean so the knife doesn't slip in your hand, and you're going to be fine. You don't have to worry about accidents. Never cut toward your hand. If you have to, use a meat hook. That's how you avoid accidents. Clean knife and cut away from your hand, not toward your hands. Now we just make a straight cut right from here through here. Just straight through. And here we have our loin, or loin butt as it is called here in Canada. That makes nice braising steak. There's also the tri-tip on there. Gonna sweep the floor a bit. So now the next muscle we take out would be the sirloin tip, but as I explained before, I already took it out earlier. And what you do, you just cut along here, hook on, pull down, cut to the bone on either side, and it pulls right off. So the next muscle we're going to take out in this video is the inside round. Here too you can see a seam barely under the fat. I of course know where it goes after doing it for almost over 40 years. And I'm going to show you. You're just going to cut in here, cut around, pull it down a bit, and here becomes the seam visible. You cut all the way again along the bone. There's a bone joint here, the big knee joint. Cut along, run the tip of the knife along the bone, all the way down and out, and then run it along on that seam here that shows up. Pretty easy because all the muscles are connected with little seams to one another, and so when you cut, you just run them along these seams. Pretty easy to do. No magic behind it, just a little bit knowledge of how an animal body is built and where the muscles are and what you can do with the muscle, which we explained later. And there is your inside round. The next one muscle we're going to take out is the eye of round. That's a long muscle here. In Europe, they also call that the false tenderloin, and you will see why. Again, it's a seam here. Run the knife tip along that seam and open it up, and there it is. Now we just run it along the seam here, like we did before. Just keep going. And keep cutting down to the fat here. That's a very nice beef, very well grade. For a grass-fed, it's not often that you have a grass-fed beef that grades so well, because that's only they do. They eat grass. That's what it means. They don't eat. They're not fed grain and stuff like that. Now we take down the outside round. Again, there's a seam. You can see that seam here, and that's what we open up here gently. Pull down with the hook, and there it is. See how easy that goes? Very easy. Of course, if you do it 40 years or more, then of course it gets easy, but that's actually very easy to learn. That's the easy part of butchering, taking an animal carcass apart. Run the knife along the bottom here, all the way down and out on the bottom. Now you just peel it down, so it comes almost undone by itself. Because the muscles are connected to the bones also with tissue that loosens very easily. Once you cut the tissue to the bone, you basically just cut it off. And there we are. So next we take off is the calf muscle here. So we just, not too high, right about here, we cut through. If you cut too high, it will fall down off the hook. So right around here, and there it is. And cut again to the seam. You may notice that I'm left-handed, so it's not much different to do it with the right hand. You just have to do it maybe I can't do it, but I just show you, so you maybe have to do it that way around. And work counterclockwise, some sort of that. So, but really, it's the cutting is the same, if it's left-handed or right-handed. So, when I learned butcher, I had it quite difficult. Everything I was shown by right-handers, and then I had to make it work for me the same way with the left hand. All right, and here it is. The entire hindquarter, minus 1 or 2 cuts, laid out here on the table. I'm going to briefly explain what the different cuts can be used for. We start here on this side. This is, as when you remember, the inside round. That needs to be cleaned up and dressed a little bit. That makes a roast or braising steaks. Here we have the inside round. That makes round steaks. Also gets a bit cleaned up and dressed. And then you cut it in the middle and you can make steaks with it. Or here in Canada, this is used mostly for beef of Baron roasts. Very nice roast. If it's for a roast, we leave a little bit of fat on it, because as you know, fat is always good to cook a roast. Here we have the hip or loin butt. And on the other side here, we have to take out, as you can see, is the tri-tip that goes around here, and that will be cut out. That makes beautiful steaks, and so does, of course, the sirloin butt. Also gets dressed a little bit. Here we have the outside round, that gets dressed up too. The fat gets cut off, and that makes also steaks or roast. But this costumer wants to have stir-fry cut out of it. Stir-fry, we cut it in small, thin slabs of meat, and then cut it very thin strips with it. This is the loin section. If the tenderloin would be in here, still you would make T-bone steaks out of it. We take it out because, as I mentioned previously, we can't use the bone. So I have to debone that, and the loin will become New York steaks. Maybe you call them something else, but here in Canada we call them New York steaks. Here we have the calf muscle. That makes a roast, stewing meat, or in this case, this one goes in the ground. This one too. Ground beef, sorry. And this one goes in the ground beef. It's also a delicacy in some fancy restaurants where they make that as a steak. Here we have. You didn't name that. Here we have the. What I cut out here will be the flank steak. That's the entire thing is called the flank. And inside here, after we clean that up a bit, there is another steak in here. Very underappreciated, and yet it's a delicious steak. It's a long, very soft muscle, and it's the flanked flap steak. Some call it the loin flap steak.